Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another videos of the paid request, this time for John. Thank you so much for that. If anyone wants to request pretty much any type of videos or topics or commentaries or reviews or re-reviews or what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Like I said, it could be for pretty much any type of video. And this is for the film The Sadness that came out around, it says 2021, although some would say 2022. But I guess this is a movie that takes place in Taiwan that made a bit of a buzz around the time. I had never heard of the film before, but I guess there were people saying, oh, it's the most violent movie about... It's kind of like a Taiwan version of The Crazies. That type of thing where they get this thing called Alvin and they go crazy and they go mad and they can talk but their eyes are blackened and they do whatever violent impulse they can. And it is a violent movie, don't get me wrong. It is a fairly violent film. But I had this buzz, it's like, oh, it's the most violent of all. Some people call it a zombie movie, but I don't think it would be right to call it a zombie film because they're not the undead. It's more, I think, 28 Days Later or The Crazies or this film from the 80s called Warning Sign. Kind of that type of stuff. Where you say whatever you say vile things and you say terrible things and then you can be very violent and all your inhibitions go away, that type of thing. Watching it, I did not mind the film for the most part, in the fact that I thought it went at a pretty decent pace. I thought it had some fairly good practical effects, which I'll get to in a minute. The leads, the acting was fine. They were a cute couple. The story is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You have this couple together. One drops the other off at the subway while he goes to this cafe. All of it hits the fan. They're separated, and the rest of the film is them trying to get back together. You have this couple of Jim and Kat. Kat's in the subway. Crazy stuff happens. Helps this woman to the hospital, and then she's at the hospital for the rest of the movie. While Jim is in this cafe, a lot of crazy stuff happens. He gets on the scooter, going around the city, a few incidents here and there, and then realizes where his girl is at. His girlfriend tries to go get to her. So it's a very straightforward, simple plot. And the thing is, like, the story, the ideas, even the gore is nothing new. It's well done gore. The pacing is fairly quick, so it wasn't too boring. But at the same time, I think like the hype I was reading into, maybe I've just been desensitized, or maybe I've just seen way too many movies where it is fairly violent, but to me, this was chicken feed compared to a lot of stuff I've seen. I mean, in a way, I kind of appreciate that because some go so far in shocking the audience and so far into being so gruesome that it gets tiring and more desensitized, and it's like, okay, at least this, it's still going with the pacing of escape and these two try to get back together. One people that, I've seen films like August Underground and a Serbian film, and I think this film's way better than those. And compared to those films, nothing in here goes that far. There's one or two moments that seem close, but the way it's done with cutaways, it to me it was tame in the right ways, but with how it's hyped up, it wasn't. I don't know how to put it. It wasn't what the hype said it was. But part of me is actually preferring that in a weird way. But to the end, the spoilers, because there's really not a whole lot in terms of the story. Part of me is, okay, it's pretty simple and straightforward, but you don't really get to know the couple that much. They're a cute couple at the beginning. They're supposed to go somewhere next week, but someone's got to do a job, and he apologizes, and then he has to drop her off. So then Kat is on the subway, and Jim's at this cafe. And then they're pretty much apart until the very end of the film. But you don't get a lot of backstory, you don't get a lot of development where they have... You find out more about the characters, you find out more about the relationship, or there's flashbacks or anything of the sort. You don't really know anything about them. You don't really get to know any of the other characters other than this creepy old man that tries to hit on Kat on the subway, and then he becomes kind of in a way, our main antagonist for a chunk of the film. I say the practical effects are well done. I'll give you that. It's, for those who are into that and into gore, it's worth a watch for that. To name a couple of stuff that happens. When Jim is at the cafe, someone throws grease in someone's face, and it's bubbling up, and they start ripping pieces of the face off. There are people jumping and dropping off the roof to the ground. Jim is fighting some guy and he gets some of his fingers cut off, and the guy takes it in his mouth and spits it out. On the subway, someone gets stabbed in the eye. When Kat is helping the lady who's blinded and getting out of the subway to try to get to the hospital, this other guy tries to help him and goes up against one of the crazy people. But then it bites the guy on the nose, and you see this wider shot where it's like taking a piece of the skin off. So there are decent bits of gore. They see a press conference on TV where, like a general or something, like one of them puts a grenade in the other's mouth, and you get this nice head explosion, like his scanners. That was pretty good head explosion. So there is pretty decent gore in it. But I mean, to consider it, so many people saying it's the most violent or one of the most violent movies. No, it's not. I'm not saying it need to be, but I'm just saying that have to calm down a bit. I mean, it's not like it's Dead Alive, also known as Brain Dead, the Peter Jackson film. That's a film that's 10 times more violent than this. And if you're talking about more violent in a horrific, ugly sense, then yeah, Serbian Film or August Underground or those movies are way, way worse. I mean, I would even say I've probably found the original Day of the Dead a bit bloodier than this. And maybe the Return of the Living Dead? Maybe, maybe, but at least the original Day of the Dead I found more violent than this. If you don't mind the color, the look of the color of red, the original Dawn of the Dead I would say is more violent than this. So it's not the most violent movie ever is what I'm getting at. There's a lot of other movies that are more violent. You know, some of the trauma films, stuff of that nature. And to be fair, there's not a whole lot of else to talk about. I'm sure some people say there's commentary because maybe to relate to things of when the C to the O to the VID was around and all that stuff. But I don't know, I didn't really feel a whole lot of parody or satire on that. It was really just kind of people getting one after the other situation. I didn't like Kat. She was in the subway. This guy won't leave her alone. When the people are infected, I don't mind the way they look. They have this big smile on their face, like creepy looking smile, and not CGI'd additioned like that movie Smile. I mean, like they're just natural but creepy grins and like these black eyes, and definitely decent looking for these crazed individuals. Definitely has a creepy vibe to the way they look. And like I said, like people start attacking other people. Now you get hints of the word that rhymes with grape in these attacks, but they cut away so it's not like irreversible or some of these other movies. At least they cut away so you get the hint, but they cut away so it's not too horrific. How you feel about that, that's up to you, but I'm just saying that's what happens. I was fine with that, but again, some people may be disappointed with that, but I mean, if you want to see worse, look at those Hong Kong Category 3 movies. That's some wild stuff. This, I think, is a bit more manageable to watch compared to that. Like, this was more, oh, look at that cool makeup effect. And there's still stuff that's off screen as well. Like the guy who tries to help Kat and the lady after she gets her off the subway, and the guy's chasing them, I should say. This guy tries to help, but again gets his nose bit, pushed down. The guy has an axe, and he kills the guy, but it's all off screen because you just see the guy doing this, and you hear it. Same with when they get to the hospital, and things are calmed down, and then that guy gets there eventually, breaks in, throws an axe. We see that went into this, when the cop falls down, is in his back. Finds that blinded lady again. Kat has separated because all the insanity. She can't get to him, or get to her, I should say. So you get the idea that the guy takes her eye, and but it's more like it's inferred in terms of you hear the lady scream and you see the going like this, which is fine. I don't actually need to see it, but I'm just saying, with the way people are hyping it up, it's almost as if you would see that. I don't need to see it, but I'm just saying compared to the hype. While Jim, what he's doing after the cafe thing and seeing these crazy stuff, again, he gets to a place where someone cuts his fingers off, takes the finger, spits it out. He's able to knock the guy down, run off, gets on a scooter, is chased a bit, finds some guys messing with someone at a basketball court. They put like barbed wire on a pole, and they take the guy and they jam his crotch into it. But it's more like, here's the pole, and you see the guy, But nothing up close, grisly detail. Again, with the way the hype sounded like, it'd be like, oh, it's gonna, when it pulls back, it's gonna, you don't see it up close where it tears something and it's caught. No, thankfully you don't see that. It's just kind of the guy falls down and, there's blood everywhere because the guy's bloodied already. And then, granted, some of the stuff these crazy people say, they're definitely more vulgar in this crazy state. Like when Jim gets two of his fingers cut off, the other crazed person goes, "Hey, your girl, don't worry, I'll finger her for you." That type of thing. Or when Jim helps this guy who got hit with the barbed wire on the crotch, chases the guys off, and he turns to see if the guy's okay, but the guy's a crazed guy and goes, "Why'd you stop him? I was gonna shoot my load." Well, you still can. So I think that's why people say it's such a crazy movie. I can understand that. I can. But I've seen a lot of movies, and I don't want to say they seem tame, but it just seemed much more manageable to watch compared to, like, again, Trauma, Serbian Film, Martyrs, those type of movies. This is more, okay, it's a city gone mad, and you have some good gore, like at the end, a head being exploding, and uh, face being ripped, and piece of nose, that type of stuff that I mentioned. But like I said I appreciate, well, it's a simple story, but sadly, while I do appreciate that, sometimes that can work for me fairly well. That's why sometimes I appreciate it. And you don't need this political mumble jumbo to be hammered in, again and again and again. Only a few people like George Romero can do that fairly well. May he rest in peace. But I do kind of wish there was a bit more to the story in terms of maybe some twists or turns, or even some like action scenes where characters fight back and like really fight back and really bring in this action dynamic, or it's just something a bit more to it, to the proceedings. I don't know exactly how to word it. Just spoilers. What happens is Kat gets a fire extinguisher, kills the older guy that's been chasing her, pounds his face in with the fire extinguisher. Then she gets caught by this Dr. Wan, and yes, that is his character's name, Dr. Wan, who is trying to study and see if she's infected or immune. He does have a baby there, because he tests on them. Although, granted, I saw crazier stuff with the zombie baby in the Dawn of the Dead remake. And hell, I mean, I would say the Dawn of the Dead remake, that's a pretty violent movie too. So, I mean, is this really crazier than the Dawn of the Dead remake? I don't know. I mean, that has some pretty violent stuff too. But I guess that one, there's CGI additions, while this, it's all practical, so there is that difference. Then he comes to find out that it seems like she's immune. But then he's like, okay, I'm going to get you out to this helicopter, but you better make sure you stay with me, because if you don't, then it's not going to work out. While he's going around, someone cuts like the top part of his foot off, by like his toes. He screams, falls to the ground, shoots some. Jim has gotten there, but Jim is infected. Kills the doctor, as they're both now crazy. She and him are separated. She sees that he's far gone. He's been wounded. He's far gone. What he says, it's vulgar because he's so far gone. She's out of it. She walks up the steps. You hear helicopters. She goes to the door, and you hear gunfire. So more than likely, as the doctor said, if I'm not with you, it's not going to end well. So, off screen, while the husband, or boyfriend, Jim, he's, Trey's smiling, and then he dies, and then the movie's over. With this, like, death metal, like death metal music. So, and that's what I mean, like, at the end of the day, I'm kind of sitting there going, it's not the worst movie I've seen. Far, far from it. The acting by the couple were cute, and they weren't bad, and it wasn't boring because it went at a fairly fast paced trajectory where another violent incident happens, where there's some pretty decent gore. It's not too much of an overly long movie, but at the same time, I'm kind of sitting there going, well, there's not much in terms of creative ideas. There's not much to the characters where you only see them together, and there's not much of a build up before. It's like 10, 12 minutes before it hits the fan. And that includes, establishing shots and things of that nature to show us where we're at. They don't get a whole lot to converse with each other throughout to feel more of their connection. So I didn't feel as strongly connected to them as a couple as maybe other movies. And again, there's really nothing in terms of creative ideas of, oh wow, I've never seen that before. That's why, as much as people get mad at me, granted this had a bigger budget, but World War Z is one that I enjoyed more. Because I felt more of a connection between Brad Pitt and his wife. I felt a bit more for Brad Pitt's character. A little bit more, granted, because they had a budget for the action. But also ideas as simple as, tape magazines and put them around your arm to use to block bites. Or he's not sure if he's infected, so he's on the edge and he's counting down and he'll do it or not if he feels a bit of it. And his kid's like, "What you doing, Dad? What you doing?" Like little moments like that really, which you don't need a budget. They're ideas, or they're the various reasons why I enjoy World War Z. And that's not accounting to the budget. Here, you've seen more gory or violent movies, or you've seen, zombie films that have a bit more with characters, or I say zombie, but whatever. Either there's a bit more to the characters, or there's a bit more to the relationship with the characters, or there's a bit more in terms of action spectacle, guns, knives, sharp sticks, whatever the case may be, that it's one of those movies I watched. I did not like the ending. That's the one thing I did not like. I thought the ending sucked. It's a grim, downbeat, depressing ending. Not a fan of it. The rest of it I didn't hate. It was just one of those, okay. Ooh, nice practical effect. Okay. Oh, another nice practical effect. Okay, that's a cutaway. I'm glad they cut that away. Glad they don't see that. I'm glad I don't see that. Okay, that's pretty good practical. That was kind of my reaction throughout the entire film, because there's nothing else to gauge. Again, whether satiric-wise, comedy-wise, action spectacle-wise, or the sort. So that's why it was a bit like, I don't know what else to say. But again, like, when you Dead Alive, 28 Days Later, Dawn of the Dead remake, or original Day of the Dead, World War Z, in terms of, again, the ideas. It's not bad. I've seen much worse, but, like I said, not a fan of the ending. The practical effects, you'd probably see a reel. Someone probably has already edited on YouTube a reel of the death scenes. And if you watch that, then you've seen the movie. That's really what it is. If someone edits the death scenes on a reel on YouTube, you watch that, then you've seen the movie, because what else would you be missing? This is what I'm getting at. Not a whole lot. But with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.